All right, this is Pre-Algebra lesson 7.3, multi-step equations with fractions and decimals. You know, here's the deal. I should be able to hand you this lesson right now without saying a word, because the rules don't change just because we're adding or subtracting fractions, or adding or subtracting decimals, or multiplying or dividing fractions, or multiplying or dividing decimals. The rules don't change. Nothing changes. You just have to know how to add or subtract, multiply or divide fractions and decimals. But we'll go over a couple of them. Here we go. Look here. The first one I'm going to give you is this. If it's 2/3 x minus 6 equals 22, you're going to watch. Right? The rules don't change. What's the first thing I do? Line down the equal sign. Then you look and see if the variable's happy. Is he happy? No? Okay, well. What do I do? Who's with him? Who's with him? -6 and a 2/3. Which one do I get rid of first? -6 plus 6. 2/3 x equals 22 plus 6 is 28. Okay. Is the variable happy? No. He's being multiplied by 2/3. So here's the deal. And I'm gonna try and teach you guys this right now. One thing you could do right now is this. Remember, the rules don't change. Instead of saying, he's being multiplied by 2/3. So I would divide this by 2/3 and divide this by 2/3. I could totally do that. Here's the reason I'm going to show you. This is what you do. What is 2/3 over 2/3? What is any number over any number? It's 1. So that's why it's gone, right? Those are gone. Even though, isn't this ugly looking? Isn't that ugly looking? But you know the rules, right? So any number, I don't care what it is, over itself is 1, right? So that's why we do this. So they're gone. That leaves me with x equals. Now here's the deal. How do I do 28 divided by 2/3? How do I divide fractions? You don't, right? So you're going to multiply. Well, wait a second. If I'm not going to divide fractions, why not jump right to what I'm actually going to do in the first place? Does that make sense? So I would go, okay, well, then it's actually 28 times 3 over 2, right? You flip you multiply by the reciprocal. You know how to do this. So then if I'm going to get to this point anyway, why not go back and skip that step, and instead of dividing by 2/3, what should I do instead? Multiply by 3 over 2, right? If I multiply this side by 3 over 2 and multiply this side by 3 over 2, what is 3 times 2? 6. What is 2 times 3? 6. 6 over 6. And we're still going to get rid of this, right? And now I just get to jump right to what I'm actually going to do in the first place. Does that make sense? So multiplying by the reciprocal is the same as dividing by the original. Did you hear what I just said? Multiplying by the reciprocal is the same thing as dividing by the original. And so let's just skip that step and divide and multiply by the reciprocal. 28 over 1. Can I reduce anything?
Yes.
What can I reduce?
28.
28 becomes a 14. The 2 becomes a 1. 14 times 3 is 42 over 1. We're done. X is 42. Does that make sense? Now, again, we've already done this lots where I'm not going to spend a lot of time here teaching you how to multiply and divide fractions because, goodness gracious, you've been doing that since, what, like 4th grade? You know what I'm saying? So, but it's setting up the problem. That's the issue. And then being meticulous and separating things. And notice, listen, this is how I would do this. If I was in a college class right now, I would still be this meticulous because it's important that you keep things separated and you keep things neat. And you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to skip steps. What's the point of that? You want to be meticulous because there's lots of steps. And this is nothing compared to what it's going to be when you get into 8th grade. I promise, this is nothing. So you got to get used to being meticulous, doing every little step. Okay, you guys try one then. Oh, let's do this one. This will be a good one. 2/3 times m minus 6 equals 3. And I'll just give you a little heads up. It doesn't come out even. What you're doing is done. Here we go. You're watching. Rules don't change. First thing you do, line on the equal sign. Right. Separates the houses. Look over here. Is that cleaned up?
Yep.
Yeah, that's cleaned up. Is this cleaned up? No. Can't start doing nothing yet. Here's the deal. I'll tell you. I'm just going to show you what you're allowed to do so that technically, you could multiply both sides by 3/2 right now. I want you to see that. If I multiply both sides by 3/2, what would that do here? What would that make this? That would get rid of what?
2/3.
That would get rid of this. That leaves me with m minus 6. Does that make sense? I technically could do that. But okay, whatever. We're going to go through what we normally do. But get rules. Okay. Rainbow, rainbow. 2/3 m is, 2/3 times m is 2/3 m. And then 2/3 times -6. I would come over here and do that. What is 2/3 times? You can do, it's going to end up being a negative, so you just put a negative here and then just do it times 6/1. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like you don't have to, okay. This becomes a 1, this becomes a 2, so it's -4. Agreed? Okay, equals 3. Plus 4 plus 4, 2/3 m equals 7. Now what do I do? I mean, I could divide by 2/3, but then that would be an extra step. So what do I do instead? Multiply by 3 halves. Multiply by 3 halves. They're gone. M equals. Can I reduce anything here? No, I can't. Right? I can't. So then it would actually be 21 halves, or if you want to change that, or it would be 10 and 1/2. Right? Does that make sense? How many of you got that? Does it make sense? Can I show you really quick? I'm going to rewrite it again. 2/3 times m minus 6 equals 4. I could go multiply by 3.
It's equals 3.
4, what?
It was
Equals 3. And then I multiply this side by 3 halves, and I go, okay, so it's m minus 6 equals 9 halves, right, which is 4.5. M minus 6 equals 4 and 1/2. Plus 6 plus 6, m equals 10.5. Exactly what we had before. Does that make sense? It just depends, right? The only reason why you're allowed to do it is because this original problem, 2/3 times m minus 6 equals 3, is, there's just two multiplyings here, right? Isn't 2/3 just multiplying whatever's inside there? So what can I do? I could just, remember, you're allowed to do whatever you want to an equation. Anyway, do another one. Oops. Okay, you can do it. So first thing we do, line, right? Separate the houses. He's clean. He's not. Well, he actually is clean, right? I mean, is there anything to do? Is there anything that needs to be done? Can I simplify anything here?
No.
No. So I can start to solve the problem. Does that make sense? Okay. What do I do? Minus 14 minus 14. Negative 7/10 x equals negative 35. Okay. What do I do with this thing now? He's being multiplied by negative 7/10, so the opposite of that would be to divide by negative 7/10, but we don't do that, so we're going to multiply by negative 10/7. Now, why negative 10/7? Because that's actually going to get rid of that negative sign. Does that make sense? We want to get rid of that thing. We don't want the variable to be a negative, right? If I just multiply it by 10/7, that's going to leave that x as a negative. You see what I'm saying? So it already is negative. To get rid of it, I have to multiply it by a negative. So I'm going to multiply this by negative 10/7 and multiply this side by negative 10/7. They're gone. X equals. Now, I have a negative times a negative. That means it's going to be a positive. Good. We can just ignore the. This is where if you're smart with negatives, you can just go, oh, okay, I have to keep the negative, write him down, or oh, I get to get rid of him, he's gone now. Can I reduce anything?
Yes, 7 and 35.
7 becomes a 1, 35 becomes a 5. 5 times 10 is 50. X equals 50. How many of you got 50? Were you on your way there?
Yes, it was.
Good. Okay. One last one I'm going to give you, and this is where, if you want to use a calculator, I don't really care. I mean, but you do need to, you have to know how to set up the problem. Let's do a good one here. What about 2.4b, I'll make it y, plus 5.6 equals negative 11.2. Now, here's the deal. Our answer, if there ends up being a decimal as an answer, can I put a decimal as the answer? Yes, because there's a decimal in the question. All right, here we go. First thing we do, always line on the equal sign. Even if you're using a calculator, you understand that you still do all the work with on your paper. You still write all the steps. I'm not making you actually do the actual multiplying, dividing, adding, or subtracting of the deal. You still have to write it all down, just like this. You see what I'm saying? You still write down everything. Now what's next? You're looking, is the variable happy?
No,
No, why not?
because it's
Not alone. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. What am I going to do first?
Minus 5.6.
Minus 5.6. 2.4y equals 16.8, negative 16.8. Then you go divide by 2.4, divide by 2.4, y equals, and then in your calculator you type it in. What does it come out to? 7. Negative 7. Very important that you write this. See, that's what I'm saying. You can't just do stuff on your calculator. You have to understand the whole point is that, you're doing this and you go, okay, this right here, you can't just, look at that. Oh, it's negative 11, but minus 5.6. That's going to make that a bigger negative, right? And then here, you're going to go, oh, you can't just ignore that guy, right? You can't ignore that negative. So you got to know, even on your calculator, you're not going to type it. You could, but you don't have to type in your calculator negative 16.8. You could just do 16.8 divided by 2.4 as long as you know that it's a negative. Does that make sense? That's what I'm saying. The calculator makes the crunching part hard. I mean, it makes it easy, but you still have to set up the problem, do it all right. You can't skip steps. You got to keep track of your negatives and your. Anyway, that's it, people. I mean, we could do samples like this all morning. It doesn't. You know how to do this stuff. Just got to do it. Okay. You can use your calculator for the lessons. It won't help you very much with the non-decimal ones. You know what I'm saying? But, whatever. It should make things a little
the
smoother
answer
for
was
you.
negative 7.
Negative 7 is the answer.
I got 7.
Yeah, not good. All right, this is Wednesday. Page 361 through 32 even.